Before store-bought trays and freezer desserts took over Christmas, American homes relied on sweets that only appeared once a year. In the 1960s and 1970s, these desserts were not optional. They were expected. Families planned for them, talked about them, and remembered who made them best. Many of these holiday treats have now vanished from modern tables, not because they lacked flavor, but because the traditions around them quietly faded. In this video, you will revisit 10 Christmas desserts that once defined the season and uncover why they disappeared and why remembering them still matters today. Ribbon Jell-O salad. At Christmas in the 1960s and 1970s, ribbon Jell-O salad was not a side dish hiding in the corner. It was a showpiece. Bright layers of red, green, and creamy white sat proudly in glass dishes, catching the light of tinsel and tree bulbs. This dessert signaled that the holidays had officially arrived. Ribbon Jell-O salad became popular during America's fascination with convenience foods. Gelatin promised modernity, control, and beauty. Home cooks followed magazine diagrams carefully, waiting for each layer to set before pouring the next. It required patience, planning, and refrigerator space, which made it feel special and deliberate. This was not a last-minute dessert. It was prepared days ahead, often whispered about so it would not be disturbed. Each layer carried meaning. Red and green gelatin reflected Christmas colors, while the milky center, made with sweetened condensed milk or sour cream, softened the sweetness and added richness. Children loved its wobble. Adults admired its precision. It sat between tradition and progress, representing a moment when American kitchens trusted science as much as memory. Ribbon Jell-O salad appeared at church potlucks, office parties, and family dinners across the country. Recipes were clipped, traded, and guarded. Every household believed theirs was the correct version. Some added crushed pineapple. Others insisted on lime and cherry only. Arguments were quiet but serious. By the late 1980s, the dessert began to fade. Gelatin lost its charm. Minimalist plating replaced spectacle. Refrigerated desserts came pre-made, removing the ritual that once gave this dish meaning. Without the process, the dessert no longer felt worth the effort. Today, ribbon Jell-O salad survives mostly in faded cookbooks and distant memories. Yet it represents more than gelatin. It reflects a time when Christmas desserts were crafted slowly, shared proudly, and remembered long after the plates were cleared. Divinity candy. For many American families in the 1960s and 1970s, Christmas did not begin until divinity candy appeared on the kitchen counter. This pale, cloud-like confection was reserved for the holidays because it demanded time, strength, and perfect conditions. Making divinity was an event, not a casual recipe. Divinity candy emerged from Southern traditions but spread nationwide during the mid-20th century. It relied on simple ingredients like sugar, egg whites, corn syrup, and vanilla, yet the process was unforgiving. Humidity mattered. Timing mattered. Beating the mixture required patience and strong arms. If rushed or distracted, the candy failed. Because of this, divinity was often made early in the morning during winter, when the air was dry and calm. At Christmas, divinity symbolized effort and care. It was spooned onto wax paper in uneven mounds, often topped with pecans or walnuts. No two pieces looked alike, which made it feel handmade and personal. Families stored it in tins, saving it for guests, church visits, and special moments rather than everyday snacking. Children remembered divinity as soft but firm, sweet but not heavy. Adults remembered the work behind it. Mothers and grandmothers taught the recipe carefully, passing down warnings more than measurements. Do not make it on a rainy day. Do not stop stirring too soon. Do not answer the phone. As boxed candies and store-bought sweets became easier and cheaper, divinity slowly disappeared from Christmas traditions. Few people wanted a dessert that could fail after so much effort. Candy thermometers and stand mixers removed some difficulty, but they also removed the story. Today, divinity candy is rarely seen outside old cookbooks and handwritten recipe cards. Its disappearance marks a shift away from seasonal patience toward instant results. Yet divinity remains a reminder of a time when Christmas desserts demanded dedication, rewarded care, and tasted like pride shaped into sugar. Fruitcake cookies. During the 1960s and 1970s, fruitcake did not always arrive as a heavy loaf wrapped in jokes. In many American homes, it appeared in a gentler form, fruitcake cookies. These small, spiced treats carried the same holiday flavors but felt more inviting, more personal, and far more likely to be eaten. Fruitcake cookies were practical. They used chopped candied fruit, nuts, and warm spices, but baked quickly and stored well. Home cooks favored them during Christmas because they stretched ingredients and time. One batch could feed a house full of guests, fill cookie tins, and still leave enough to share with neighbors. They were often baked weeks before Christmas, sealed tightly, and brought out when company arrived. The cookies reflected the era's approach to holiday baking. Recipes came from church fundraisers, women's magazines, and community cookbooks. Measurements were flexible, adjusted based on what was already in the pantry. Some versions used molasses, others brown sugar. Some were soft and cake-like, while others were crisp around the edges. Every household claimed theirs struck the perfect balance. Unlike traditional fruitcake, these cookies did not intimidate. Children accepted them. Guests reached for them without hesitation. They appeared alongside sugar cookies and ginger snaps, quietly holding their place on the Christmas table. As American tastes shifted away from candied fruit and toward chocolate-heavy desserts, fruitcake cookies lost favor. The ingredients became associated with outdated traditions rather than celebration. Prepackaged cookies and novelty treats replaced the careful preparation these required. Today, fruitcake cookies are rarely remembered, even by those who once baked them every December. Their disappearance reflects how smaller, homemade traditions fade first. Yet these cookies once carried the essence of Christmas baking, thrift, sharing, and flavors that connected generations through simple, familiar sweetness. 7-layer magic bars. In the 1960s and 1970s, 7-layer magic bars felt like a small miracle at Christmas. They required no mixer, no advanced skill, and very little time, yet they delivered richness that felt extravagant. For many families, these bars became a holiday essential because they looked impressive while remaining dependable. The recipe reflected the era's trust in packaged ingredients. A crumb crust formed the base, followed by layers of chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, shredded coconut, and chopped nuts. Sweetened condensed milk was poured over everything, seeping downward and binding the layers together as it baked. Nothing was stirred. The oven did the work. This simplicity earned the dessert its name. At Christmas, 7-layer bars filled cookie trays and aluminum pans brought to gatherings. They cut cleanly, traveled well, and satisfied nearly everyone. The bars felt indulgent during a time when desserts were meant to feel generous. One small square was enough, which made them perfect for crowded holiday tables. Home cooks appreciated the control these bars offered. The recipe rarely failed. Ingredients were easy to find and affordable. Variations existed, but the structure stayed the same. This reliability made the dessert popular among busy households balancing tradition with limited time. As baking trends changed, 7-layer bars began to fade from Christmas menus. New desserts emphasized freshness, decoration, and novelty. Packaged ingredients lost their appeal, and no-bake shortcuts were seen as less authentic. The bars became associated with a specific moment in time rather than timeless celebration. Today, 7-layer magic bars survive mostly in memory and old magazine pages. Their disappearance marks a shift away from practical indulgence toward performance baking. Yet for decades, they represented the perfect holiday compromise, easy, rich, and always welcome at the Christmas table. Pineapple upside-down cake. At Christmas in the 1960s and 1970s, pineapple upside-down cake took on a holiday identity that went beyond everyday baking. The glossy rings of pineapple, bright cherries, and caramelized sugar felt festive, deliberate, and proudly displayed. This cake often replaced frosted layer cakes when hosts wanted color without decoration. The dessert reflected mid-century America's relationship with canned fruit. Pineapple symbolized warmth, abundance, and a hint of the exotic, especially during winter. Home cooks arranged slices carefully in cast-iron skillets or square pans, pressing cherries into centers like ornaments. When the cake was inverted, the reveal mattered. Gasps and approval followed. During Christmas gatherings, this cake balanced familiarity and celebration. It traveled well, sliced cleanly, and stayed moist for days. Families served it slightly warm or at room temperature, sometimes with whipped topping, sometimes plain. The flavor was gentle, sweet, and comforting, matching the mood of crowded living rooms and long conversations. Recipes varied by region and habit. Some used yellow cake mix. Others insisted on scratch batter with butter and brown sugar. Nuts appeared in some homes, never in others. What remained consistent was the ritual. Someone always reminded everyone to wait before flipping. Someone always held their breath. By the late 20th century, pineapple upside-down cake slipped away from Christmas tables. Tastes shifted toward chocolate, cream-based desserts, and visually dramatic pastries. Canned fruit lost its status, and skillet cakes felt dated. The cake did not vanish entirely, but it lost its seasonal importance. Today, this holiday version survives mostly in memory. It represents a time when Christmas desserts emphasized warmth, reliability, and shared anticipation. Pineapple upside-down cake was never trendy. It was trusted, celebrated quietly, and remembered for the moment when a simple flip turned patience into applause during 1960s holiday family gatherings. Ambrosia salad. At Christmas in the 1960s and 1970s, ambrosia salad blurred the line between dessert and tradition. It was sweet, colorful, and always present, sitting confidently on the holiday table beside cakes and cookies. No one questioned its place. Ambrosia belonged to Christmas. This dish reflected mid-century America's love for contrast and convenience. Canned mandarin oranges, crushed pineapple, miniature marshmallows, coconut, and whipped topping came together in a single bowl. Some families added sour cream instead of whipped topping, giving it a tang that balanced the sweetness. Others folded in maraschino cherries for extra color. The recipe was flexible, forgiving, and passed down more by habit than by instruction. Ambrosia salad was popular because it could be made ahead. Busy households prepared it the night before Christmas, letting the flavors meld in the refrigerator. It required no baking, no precise timing, and no decoration. Its charm came from abundance. Every spoonful delivered fruit, cream, and sweetness at once. For children, ambrosia felt like permission. Marshmallows and whipped topping counted as a dish, not just a treat. For adults, it represented hospitality and familiarity. It appeared at church dinners, family reunions, and nearly every Southern Christmas gathering, though versions spread nationwide. As food culture changed, ambrosia began to fade. Creamy fruit salads were labeled outdated. Fresh fruit and lighter desserts replaced combinations built around canned ingredients. What once felt celebratory began to feel excessive or unrefined. Today, ambrosia salad is often remembered with humor, but rarely with understanding. Its disappearance marks a shift away from communal, make-ahead dishes toward individually plated desserts. Yet ambrosia once captured the spirit of Christmas in that era. Shared bowls, generous portions, and flavors chosen to please everyone at the table. More than a recipe, ambrosia was reassurance. It promised sweetness without effort and familiarity without explanation. For decades, it reminded families that Christmas desserts did not need perfection. They only needed to be shared. Icebox cake. In the 1960s and 1970s, icebox cake was a Christmas dessert that combined simplicity, elegance, and a touch of magic. Layers of wafer cookies or graham crackers were alternated with whipped cream, allowing the refrigerator to do the work. By morning, or even several hours later, The cookies had softened, the flavors melded, and a rich, creamy dessert emerged with minimal effort. This dessert reflected mid-century America's growing reliance on convenience. No baking skills were required, yet the result appeared impressive. Home cooks appreciated icebox cake because it could be prepared in advance, freeing up time for other holiday preparations. It was particularly favored by families who hosted large gatherings, where ease of preparation and portability mattered. Each icebox cake carried a personal signature. Some households added chocolate or vanilla wafers. Others layered fresh fruit, nuts, or coconut for texture and color. Whipped cream was always essential, often sweetened lightly to balance richness. Despite its simple ingredients, the dessert created a sense of anticipation. Children and adults alike waited for the chilling process to complete, savoring the moment of revelation when the first slice revealed its delicate layers. Icebox cake was also versatile. It appeared at church socials, office parties, and extended family dinners. Its clean presentation in glass dishes or aluminum pans made it visually appealing. The dessert's success relied on patience rather than precision, emphasizing a quiet, satisfying triumph over complexity. By the 1980s, icebox cake began to fade from holiday menus. Refrigerators were no longer special. Convenience foods and prepackaged desserts replaced homemade layering. The cake's charm, its reliance on simple ingredients and time, was lost in an era seeking faster, more modern options. Today, icebox cake survives mostly in memory, old cookbooks, and nostalgic conversations. Its disappearance reminds us that Christmas desserts of that era were not just about flavor, they were about ritual, anticipation, and the quiet satisfaction of creating something special without fuss. Icebox cake captured all of these elements, earning its place on the holiday table for decades. Date nut loaf with cream cheese spread. During the 1960s and 1970s, date nut loaf with cream cheese spread was a fixture of American Christmas tables, especially in homes that valued both tradition and flavor. Dense, slightly sweet, and studded with chopped nuts, this loaf was far from ordinary. Paired with a creamy, tangy spread, it became a dessert that felt indulgent without requiring elaborate preparation. The dessert reflected a mid-century love for wholesome ingredients with a twist of luxury. Dates provided natural sweetness, while nuts added texture and richness. Cream cheese, softened and lightly sweetened, balanced the loaf's sweetness with a smooth, decadent layer. Families often served it sliced thin, either at breakfast on Christmas morning or as a snack during holiday gatherings, allowing the flavors to shine without overwhelming. Making date nut loaf required patience but not skill. The batter mixed quickly, baked in a loaf pan, and filled the home with a warm, comforting aroma. Recipes varied by household. Some added a touch of cinnamon or nutmeg. Others included a dash of orange zest. The combination was simple yet memorable, turning everyday ingredients into a dessert that felt special for the season. The loaf also carried a social function. Baked early in the week, it could be wrapped and shared with neighbors, church friends, or extended family. It symbolized care and thoughtfulness, much like other holiday baking traditions of the era. Children eagerly anticipated the first slice, often with cream cheese spread thickly, creating a small, sweet ritual that accompanied gift-giving and tree decorating. By the late 1970s and 1980s, date nut loaf began to vanish from Christmas menus. Changing tastes favored lighter cakes, chocolate-based desserts, and pastries that required less preparation. Convenience and novelty replaced tradition, leaving recipes like this to survive mostly in handwritten cookbooks and fading memories. Yet, date nut loaf with cream cheese spread is more than a recipe lost to time. It represents a moment when Christmas desserts were personal, flavorful, and shared with intention, each slice carrying warmth, care, and a quiet celebration of the season. Snowball cookies, Russian tea cakes. In the 1960s and 1970s, snowball cookies, also known as Russian tea cakes, were a staple of American Christmas baking. These small, round confections, dusted generously with powdered sugar, resembled tiny snowballs, perfectly capturing the winter spirit. They were simple, elegant, and deeply tied to the nostalgia of holiday traditions. The cookies combined butter, finely chopped nuts, flour, and a touch of vanilla. Their richness came from butter and nuts, but the powdered sugar gave them a light, delicate appearance. Each bite melted in the mouth, offering a perfect balance of crunch and tenderness. The preparation was straightforward, making them accessible for home bakers while still feeling festive and special. Snowball cookies were often baked in large batches and stored in tins for family, friends, and neighbors. They traveled well, making them ideal for holiday gift exchanges or church socials. The ritual of rolling the dough into balls, baking, and then coating them in sugar became part of the holiday experience. Children often participated in rolling or shaking the cookies in powdered sugar, creating shared moments that extended beyond taste. Regional variations existed, with some households adding a pinch of cinnamon or using different types of nuts. Despite minor differences, the cookies maintained their classic charm: small, round, snowy, and unmistakably festive. They were usually enjoyed alongside other cookies, like sugar cookies or ginger snaps, contributing to the abundance of the holiday table. By the 1980s, snowball cookies began to fade from widespread holiday use. New dessert trends, particularly those favoring chocolate and modern decorations, replaced them. The cookies survived in some family traditions but lost prominence in public baking culture. Today, snowball cookies live mostly in memory and old recipe boxes. Their disappearance highlights a period when Christmas desserts were crafted with care, shared generously, and designed to evoke seasonal imagery. Each cookie was a small celebration of winter, warmth, and family, a simple delight that defined an era of holiday baking. Spiced apples in red gelatin. In the 1960s and 1970s, spiced apples in red gelatin was a Christmas dessert that combined color, flavor, and a sense of occasion. The dish featured tender apple slices cooked with cinnamon and cloves, then suspended in bright red gelatin. It was a centerpiece dessert, eye-catching and unusual, capturing both the festive spirit and mid-century fascination with molded dishes. This dessert reflected America's love for convenience foods while still celebrating the holidays. Canned apples or pre-cooked slices were often used, along with ready-made red gelatin, making preparation straightforward. Yet the spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, sometimes a hint of clove, elevated the dish, giving it warmth and aroma. For many families, the scent of spiced apples simmering on the stove was as important as the final presentation. Spiced apples in red gelatin appeared at church dinners, family gatherings, and office parties. Its bright red color made it visually striking on tables dominated by cookies, cakes, and salads. The gelatin held the apple slices neatly in place, creating a molded dessert that looked festive and deliberate. It balanced sweetness and spice, offering a refreshing alternative to heavier desserts. The recipe encouraged creativity. Some households added maraschino cherries or a splash of lemon juice for brightness. Others sprinkled nuts on top for texture. Despite these variations, the core elements remained the same: apple, spice, and red gelatin, a combination that defined the holiday season in many homes. By the late 1970s, the dessert began to vanish. Shifts in taste favored more natural, less artificial ingredients. Gelatin dishes, once symbols of modern convenience, were replaced by cakes, pies, and chocolate-centered desserts. The ritual of creating a molded centerpiece slowly disappeared. Today, spiced apples in red gelatin survives mostly in memory and vintage cookbooks. Its disappearance marks a time when Christmas desserts emphasized color, texture, and presentation alongside flavor. This dessert reminds us that holidays were once celebrated not only with sweetness but also with visual delight and seasonal imagination.